Hello guys, welcome to another video. This one is paper 1-2 of October-November 2020. Now with that being said, let's move on to question number 1. So here we have the curve y equal to 2x squared plus k plus 4 intersects the straight line y equal to k plus 4x at two distinct points. So find the possible values of k. So now the thing is, whenever you see at two distinct points, you have to think about b squared minus 4ac has to be more than 0. So your discriminant has to be more than 0. That's the main point. Now, we have a curve and a line, they intersect. So whenever you see intersects, or you can see cuts or meets, we have to solve by simultaneous equation. Okay, so basically I can see here we have y, and here I have y, so I can solve simultaneously. So I will put on one side I will have this, the curve, right? And then I will have the line on the other side. Okay, so now we just have to put everything on one side and see what happens. So let's send this over here. You will have 2x squared. That will be minus k plus 4x plus k plus 4 equal to 0. So now we observe this is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. So A, B, C. But here we want to find b squared minus 4ac more than 0. So let's replace in the equation. So b squared will be minus k plus 4 square minus 4 times a will be 2, and times c will be k plus 4. It has to be more than 0. So now we can simplify. So minus is actually minus 1. So minus 1 square will be 1. And this will become k squared plus 8k plus 16. That will be minus, so this will be 4 times 2 is 8. So 8 times k will be 8k, and then minus 32, more than 0. So now we have to simplify. So you will have k squared plus 8k minus 8k plus 16 minus 32, more than 0. So simplify again. K squared, so this will cancel out, and then we have what? What is 16 minus 32? Let's check. It should be the same thing. So yeah, so that will be minus 16, more than 0. So right now we have this equation. We have to find the critical values of the equation. So critical values is same thing, so same equation. We just change the sign to 0. So k will give me the value of 16, so k squared. So k will be plus minus 4. So these are my critical values. This is not my answer yet. I will have to find my answer based on the graph. So basically, this is my x-axis. This will be the line 0, right? And then because here we have 1, right, 1k, it is a positive value. The shape of the graph will look something like this. And these two will be the critical values. So we know this is minus 4, and this will be plus 4. But now based on the requirements, we can see that it has to be more than 0. So more will be on top and on top. So based on that, I can conclude k must be less than minus 4, and k must be more than 4 for me to satisfy my equation. So this will be my answer for question number 1. Now let's move on to question number 2. The diagram shows the graph of y where f of x is a cubic curve. Okay, cubic equation. Now part 1 is to find f of x. Okay, so step by step as always. So the first thing we can see is that the curve passes through 3 points on the, so here we have on the x-axis, so we have 1 point, 2, and 3. So let's find out the 3 solutions. So this one is, so for now I will write f of x is equal to, this is, Okay, so let me write down. The solution is x equal to minus 5. This one is x equal to minus 1. This one is x equal to 2. But now we have to find the factors. So how do you find the factors? You just send this number to the left. So this will become x plus 5, x plus 1, x minus 2. So as you can see, these will be the factor of my graph. So right now I can write, for at least at first we can write this for now. X plus 5 is one of the solution factors. Then we have x plus 1, and then we have x minus 2. Okay, so now as we can see here, we have our y-intercept. So how do you obtain that y-intercept? So if you observe, my y value here is given by 5. This is the point 0, 5. Now we have to ask ourselves if this one reflects the correct value. We have to test. If you were to put, so this is x and y, right? If you were to replace those values back in my equation, will I have the same value? Let's see. So value of x will be 0. You will have 0 plus 5, 0 plus 1, 0 minus 2. So you will have 5 times 1 times minus 2, and that will be, the value will be minus 10. So you can see we are getting minus 10 for this value, but we need the value of 5. So how can you make minus 10 become 5? You have to divide. You have to divide by, so you can divide by minus 2 to get 5. So same thing here, we have to take this one, divide by minus 2. So f of x will be minus half times the rest. That will be my equation of the curve, which is f of x. So just to recap, the first thing we do is we look at the curve where it cuts my x-axis. I can see here, here, and here. So I can write down my solutions. X equal to minus 5, equal to minus 1, equal to 2. That's the first step. Now, from the solution, I can find the factors. I can first send this to the left. So x minus 5 become plus 5 when you send this to the left. Same thing here, and same thing here. So these are the factors of my equation. Now I can write, this is the first thing I can write, f of x, suppose that f of x equal to this times this times this, for now. Now when you look at the y-intercept, you can see that it is the point 0, 5. Now we have to check if that is correct for our current equation. We place x 0 in the equation, we realize that with that value of x, and from that equation, we're getting minus 10. But we actually need to have the value of 5. So how can you make minus 10 become 5? You have to divide by minus 2. So because of that, we also divide by minus 2 our equation. And that's how you get f of x to be this equation. Okay, so now part B, write down the values of x for which f of x is less than 0. So f of x is the curve. Where is the curve less than 0? So if you observe, this is basically 0 here, right? Less than 0 will be, as you can see, between those two. Also for this part, right? It is less than 0. So I can write down, my answer will be, x will be between the values of minus 5 and minus 1, and x will be more than 2. For those set of values of x, it will be less than 0, according to the graph. That will be question number 2. Okay, so now question number 3. Write down the amplitude of 2 cos x over 3 minus 1. So something we have to know here is that whenever you have a cos curve, you have a cos bx plus c. The value in front of your cos or sine curve, it is your amplitude. So here we can see, this is my amplitude. So amplitude will be the value of 2. And as you can see, the question was asking you to write down So whenever you see write down, it should not be hard, it should be pretty easy. And this one is an easy answer for part 1. Now part B, write down the period of the same equation. So same technique, we have to know how to find the period. So whenever we have equation like this, the period, we call this t, is equal to 2 pi, or you can write 360, it is up to you, 2 pi of 360, divide by the value of b, divide by b. So let's use degrees, it is easier for us. So 360 divided by b. So what is b here? B is, if you look, b is what? So what is x over 3? It is 1 over 3 times x. So b here is 1 over 3. So basically, 360 divided by 1 over 3 will be my period. That will be 1080 degrees will be my period for that equation. That is part B. Now for part C, on the axis below, sketch the graph of y that we have just seen between minus pi and 3 pi. So here we have to use radians, okay? So the way I like to do this is I like to definitely do step by step and then use a table of values to find the points. So let's first begin with this one. So I have y equal to a cos bx plus c. I like to begin with a value at the end. I can see here we have minus 1. So first let's draw the line of y equal to minus line. So we call this the baseline. Okay, let me find a ruler here and we can draw this line. Okay, so minus 1 will be right here, y equal to minus 1. So let me try to make a horizontal line and we will be good. So here you go. That will be my line. That will guide me to draw the rest of this curve. Okay, so we can label this if you want to. So y equal to minus 1. Of course, that will not be part of the answer. I will recommend you erase this at the end. It is up to you. Okay, so this one is just help you to draw your curve. Now next thing is we have to look at the amplitude. Okay, here we have 2. So basically what do I do is I take 2 plus and minus this value. So here from minus 1, if you, this is, okay, I made a mistake here. This is 1 and I'm supposed to draw the line of minus 1. So erase that, have to go to minus 1, okay? Okay, that's not good. So let's try again. Should be minus 1, not 1. Okay. That's the line that we need to draw at first. Y equals to minus 1. That is plus 1. So I look at my amplitude, which is 2. So I need to move 2 up and 2 down. So let's count. So for minus 1, move 2 up, 1, 2, okay, it is that line, which is good. And move 2 down will be minus 1, minus 2, and minus 3. So I have to draw the line of y equal to minus 3. Okay, so here we have that. So that will be my line of y minus 3. So by drawing those two lines, it does help you to know exactly where your curve will be. So your curve will be between the top and the bottom line. You will never go past these two lines. It will always be between these two lines. That's the indication that we have for the curve now. Now moving forward to find the other values, I will use a table of values. So for example, let me write this here. So I need to draw from minus this to 3 pi. So let me draw something here. So this is my x values and my y values. So I can first begin with this value, minus pi. What is the value of y when x equal to minus pi? Replace in your equation. So here we have to use radians, right? So you will have 2 cos of minus pi over 3 minus 1. So minus 1 is afterwards. at the end. So minus 1, we will have 0. So at this value, it will be 0. So let's make this mark on the graph. So minus pi will be 0, will be right here. Then we can test the other values. So what will be the value at 0? So as you can see, the next value here is 0. So let's use that value. So we have 0. So 2 cos 0 minus 1. That will be 1. So 0 will be 1. That is my second point. And next value here we have pi. So let's use pi. So we have 2 cos of pi over 3 minus 1. That will be 0 again. Okay, so pi will be 0. Next one will be 2 pi. So 2 pi, 2 cos of 2 pi over 3 minus 1. That will be minus 2. Good. And so 2 pi will be minus 2. So let's make a mark right here. Okay. And the next one is 3 pi. So let's see. So we have 2 cos of 3 pi over 3 minus 1. That will be minus 3. So 3 pi will be minus 3. So 3 pi will be minus 3 will be right here. As you can see, we have this point, this point, this point, this and this. So now we can join them with a smooth curve. So as you can see, so you have to know some basics. So what do I mean? So we have to know how they usually look like. For example, I can say a sine curve will look something like this, usually, right? And then cos curve will look something from this and this. So that's the usual shape. They are curvish in nature, so we have to know the usual shape of the curve. Now we just have to join those points by a curve which looks like a cos curve, if that makes sense. So here we have a minimum point, for example, and here we have a maximum point from what we can see. So let's try our best to join them as smoothly as possible. With this. Okay, as you can see, it will have to be somewhat curved in nature. So that will be my curve. Usually I will not leave those lines, I will erase them and then just leave the blue line as my answer. So don't forget to label your curve as y, 2 cos x over 3 minus 1. That is part C of the question, number 3. So the 7th and the 10th term of an arithmetic progression are 158 and 149 respectively. Now, the first thing I would say is that whenever you see the kind of progression given to you, here for example here, it is arithmetic progression. So whenever you see that, go back to your list of formulas, and you can see here you will have something regarding arithmetic progression. So let me check. This one. Okay, so that will be your official list of formulas. Now, as you can see here, we have two equations given to you for arithmetic progression. So let's first write it down on the main page of the question. So we have the n term is given to you by a plus n minus 1 times d. And the sum of the first n term is given to you by half n 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, so now we have to find what? We have to find the common difference and the first term of the progression. So common difference, it is d, right here, d. And the first term, we call this a. So we have to find a and d by using the information that were given to us. Now the seventh term, so u of 7 was given by 158 and u of 10 was given by 149. So we have to use that information to find D and A. So there's a few ways of doing this question. So let me show you both ways. Why not? So first way we can replace one by one. So here n is 7, so you will have 158 is equal to A plus 7 minus 1 is 60. That is my equation number 1. And here we have 149 is equal to A plus 10 minus 1 is 90. Okay, now we can make A become subject here. You will have A will be 158 minus 60. Now we can replace this A in this other equation. So basically we're solving simultaneous equation by substitution. That will be 149 and that will be 158 minus 60 plus 90. Now we have to simplify, so send this one over here. So 149 minus 158, that will be minus 9 and that will be 3D. So D will be minus 9 divided by 3 and that will be minus 3. That is the first thing we have found, D. And now to find the value of A, pretty easy. Replace this back in the equation. It will be 158 minus 6 times minus 3. So 158 minus 6 times minus 3, that will be 176. So here we go. So we have the two answers that we need for first term and common difference. So that is one way of doing the question. So now the other way is, it is also easy. So we can just have a way of thinking, right? So for example here, the 7th term right now, we have the 8th term, the 9th term, and the 10th term, right? The 7th term is given to you by 158, right? Now since it is an arithmetic progression, we know that it has a common difference. So what does that mean? It means that every term we are only increasing or decreasing by something. Let's say we are increasing by plus D. This will be 558 plus D. Now this one will be plus D again, that will be 158 plus 2D. And this one will be plus D again, 158 plus 3D. That's the thing behind. Now we have realized that here, the 10th term is given to you by what? We have 10th term is 149, so 149 is equal to 158 plus 3D. Now we can solve for the value of D, so 3D will be 149 minus 158, that will be minus 9, so D will be minus 3. So when you have this, you can just replace back in one of those equations to find the value of A, and that will be the other way of doing this question. That will be part A. Now let's move on to part B. So here we have to find the least number of terms, so we have to find the least number of n, which is terms, of the progression for the sum to be negative. So for the sum to be negative, right? So we have to find n for which this is negative. So we know this formula, it is given to you, it is half n, that will be 2a plus n minus 1 times d has to be less than 0. That will be half, n we don't know, 2 times a will be 176 plus n we don't know, minus 1 times d will be minus 3, have to be less than 0. So now we have to solve for the value of n. So first thing, we can just multiply by 2 everywhere. We can eliminate this. You will have n, and that will be 2 times 176, that will be 352, that will be minus 3 and minus 1, less than 0. Now because n is common, we can just divide by n everywhere, because there's no way that n can be 0, right? So we are just trying to find the positive value. So you will have 352 minus n and minus 1. Now we can expand the brackets. You will have 352 minus 3n plus 3 less than 0. So minus 3n plus, So 352 plus 3, that will be 355 less than 0. Now we can send this over here, so minus 3 minus 355. Now when you divide by negative value, you have to change the sign. That's something you have to know. The sign will change to the other way. This divided by minus 3. That'll be 118, 118.333. So for n to be more than this value, so we know that n has to be an integer. Integer means has to be a whole number. N has to be more than this, so the next whole number will be 119. So your answer will be, the least number of terms will be 119 for S of n to be negative. And that is question number 4. Okay. Now let's move on to question number 5. So here we have to find the coefficient of x squared in this expansion. So as you can see, we only care about the term in x squared. But there's many ways of doing this question, so let me do one of the easiest ways. So here, as you can see, it is a linear, not linear, but simple. There's no powers here. But here I have something in powers. So what can I do first is, to make my life easy, I can first expand this one. X2 over x power 5. That will be 5 choose 0. The first term is x. And then I have 2 over x. If this is 0, that will be 0. 5 minus 0 is 5. And then we have 5 choose 1. That'll be x. 2 over x. 1 and 4. 5 choose 2. X. 2 over x. That will be 2 here, 2 here. That will be 3. Plus 5 choose 3. That will be x. 2 here. 2 over x. And that will be 3 here. Continue. 5 choose 4. That will be x. 2 over x. Here we have 4 here. And here we have 1. And finally, 5 choose 5. That will be 5 here and 0 here. Now we can expand every single term one by one to find the values of that expansion. So that is one way of doing that. So now because it is 5, this is why we do this. Now sometimes you have terms power of 20, power of 10. So that would be a bit too much to expand everything out. So in those cases, we have to find other ways of doing that question. But now, since it is only 5, we can always just expand everything and do one by one. Okay, so 5 choose 0, we can test, should be 1, but 5 choose 0 is 1. So 1 times x power 5. Anything power 0 will be 1. Okay, 5 choose 1 is 5. That will be x power 4. That will be 2 over x plus 5 choose 2, that should be 10. So let's check 10. X power 3, that will be 4x squared. Now 5 choose 3, that will be 10 again. And that will be square, and that will be 8 over x power 3. And plus 5 choose 4, that will be 5 x, and that will be 16 over x power 4. And plus 5 choose 5 is 1, that should be 0, which is 1 basically. What is 2 power 5? That should be 32. So 32 over x power 5. Okay, so simplify. That will be x power 5 plus, that will be cancelled out. You can see that this will go away, and this will be power 3. 5 times 2 is 10. That will be 10x power 3. This will go away. That will be 1. So you will have 40x. And here you will have this goes away, and that will be 1. So you have 80 over x. And this will go away. That will be 3. So 5 times 16. Again, you will have 80 over x power 3. And then here you will have 32 over x power 5. So here we have the expansion of this part of the question. Now, if I take this multiplied by this, what do we get? We have to know that when you have x minus 3 over x multiplied by x plus 2 over x power 5. So you will have something like this. You will take the first term, x, multiplied by the expansion, and then minus 3 over x multiplied by the expansion. Now remember, we only care about the term in x squared. So basically, if you take x, by what can you multiply in this expansion for you to get something in x squared? So you observe x multiplied by this one, right? By 40x, so we can have a term in x squared. So because we only care about the term in x squared. Now minus, we have 3 over x multiplied by what to get something in x squared? So we have to choose multiply by this one, right? So that seems to be 10x power 3. That will be minus 30x squared. So 40 minus 30, that should be 10x squared. So the coefficient will be 10. So your answer will be 10 as the coefficient of x squared. That will be question number 5. Move on to question number 6. So f of x equal to this value for the domain of x is more than minus 1. Domain means the values of x. Okay, that's what I mean by domain. Now part A, given that the minimum value of this occurs at the point where x equal to minus 1, explain why it has an inverse. So to understand this, we have to draw a graph. So if you were to draw this graph, you will find the graph will look something like this. Let's replace the value of x equal to minus 1, you will have what? That will be 1, minus 2, minus 3, right? So 1, minus 2, minus 3, that should be minus 4. So minus 4, let's say, should be somewhere about here, okay? So your graph will look something like this. Because usually the graph will look something, it is a minimum curve, it will look something like this. But now, because it is only defined for x is more than minus 1, we will not have this part, okay? Only this part will be on the graph. And this is why it has an inverse. Why? If you were to draw a line, a horizontal line, you will cut the graph at one point. So by doing that, you realize that the function for this domain, it is 1-to-1. It means that when you draw this line, it cuts the graph at only one point, it will give you one value. Because of that, it has an inverse. So I hope you understand this concept if you have any of the similar questions. But for now, the reason why is because you would say, for x, this, we know that f of x is a 1-to-1 function. That's why. So that's the reason why it has an inverse, because it is a 1-to-1 function that is defined by this domain. Now for part B, on the axis below, sketch the graph of y and the graph of y inverse. So f inverse, right? Label each graph and state the intercept on the axis. So it is only a sketch, so it doesn't need to be exact. For example, here I can just connect these two. Let's say I have 1 here. Minus 4 will be somewhere here. My graph will look something like this. My value of y equal to f of x. Now I know that the relationship between the graph of y equal to f of x and y equal to its inverse has to be a reflection in the line y equal to x. So that's the main point, right? So we have to know that the relationship is always a reflection in the line of y equal to x. So let me draw this line first. Okay, that will be, let me continue this as long as possible. So here, that's my line, y equal to x. You can continue this if you want to, you can keep going on. Okay. Up to you. So basically I have to draw the other one as a reflection in this line. So I can just kind of reflect right? Something like that. This needs to be a reflection in the line y equal to x. So you have to label this line and provide this equation as well. This is y equal to its inverse. And finally, we have to show label each graph, okay? State the intercepts of the axis. So we have to show where it cuts my axis. Okay, so this is what point? Let's see. So this is the x-axis, and we know that at x-axis the value of y has to be 0. So we can just replace and find the value. So that will be 0 is x squared plus 2x minus 3. Factorize, that will be x, that will be 3 times 1. To get plus 2, we have to have plus 3 minus 1. So we can see x can either be 1, x can be minus 2. So according to my graph, obviously this will be the value of 1 because it is on the positive side. This is 1, this will have to be 1 as well, okay? And this is the thing we have to show, which is the intercepts on the axis and the labeling of those graphs. And also you have to show this relationship between the two to show that you understand how to sketch those two graphs. So as you can see, my graph is not perfect, but that is okay. It is only a sketch. The idea has to be a reflection on this line. That will be part B of the question number 6. Now for part 7, we have the equation y equal to this one. For this domain, 3x squared is more than 5. Okay, good. Now find the equation of the normal to the curve at the point where x equal to root of 2. Okay, so first we have to know what are we trying to find. For example, the idea here is that, let's say our curve looks something like this. We don't know the shape, let's say something like this, right? At the point where x equal to root 2, let's say it's here. So at this point, I have a tangent, right? So we have to know that at every point of a curve, we can have a tangent. Now, we have to find the equation of the normal at the point. The normal will be perpendicular to the tangent. So we have to find the equation of this line, of the blue line, which is at 90 degrees to the tangent. Now again, if you want to find the equation of a straight line, you first have to find its gradient. Okay, now we have to know the gradient of the normal, it is related to the gradient of the tangent is equal to minus 1. So if you want to find this one, right, we have to first find this one. So what is the gradient of the tangent? It is simply dy by dx at the point where x equals to root 2. So you have to first find dy by dx. That's the idea. So let's see. Here we have y equal to ln of 3x squared minus 5 over 2x plus 1. As you can see, this one is a fraction, so you will have to use your quotient rule. Okay, so let's do that. So dy by dx will be what? First, let's write down the denominator as it is, so 2x plus 1. Then we have to write d by dx of the numerator, which is ln of 3x squared minus 5. Okay, and then we have to minus, then we have to write down the numerator as it is, and then multiply by d by dx of the denominator. And then everything in bracket divide by the denominator square. Okay, that will be the quotient rule we have to use. So this is something you guys have to actually memorize, how to use the product rule and how to use the quotient rule. It is something you guys have to know to solve those kind of questions. So now 2x plus 1 remains the same. D by dx of this one will give me 1 over 3x squared minus 5. Now multiply by d by dx of the value inside, that will give you 6x, right? Then minus, this will be the same ln of 3x squared minus 5 multiplied by d by dx of the value inside, that will become 2, and then everything divided by 2x plus 1 squared. Now, we can simplify if you want to, but the question is not asking us to find dy by dx. We know that we have to find dy by dx at x equal to root of 2. So let's just replace the values in the equation already. So at x equal to root of 2, let's find dy by dx. So let's replace the values here. You have 2 root of 2 plus 1 divided by, so this will be this, divided by 3 times 2 minus 5 minus ln of, that will be 3 times 2, that will be 1 times 2, and then divide by 2 root 2 plus 1 squared. Okay, so what do we have now? Let's simplify. So ln of 1 is 0. This will be 0. So the whole thing will become 0. Here you will have what? If you expand, you will have 2 times 6 is 12. This time this will be 2. 12 times 2 will be 24. Plus 6 root 2. Divide by 6 minus 5 is just 1. And then divide by, this is square. Let's see, what do we have here? That will become 4 times 2 plus 4 root 2 plus 1. That will give me 24 plus 6 root 2 divided by, that will be 8 plus 1 is 9 plus 4 root 2. Okay, so that will be my dy by dx at that point, given by this fraction. Now we can simplify some more if you want to. It is up to you. If you want to simplify, you can do that, but I would say you don't really need to. It is your preference. Okay, so now next step is we have to what? We have to find the gradient of tangent. So tangent is this. We have to find the normal now. Normal will be minus the denominator over the numerator. That will be my gradient for that. Okay, so now we have the gradient. We can find the equation of the line. Now we know x is equal to root of 2. We have to find the value of y. To find the value of y, we place back in your main equation. You will have ln of 3 times 2 is 6 minus, that will be 1 over 2, this plus 1, that should be 0, because ln of 1 is 0. So that's why we have this. This will be my passing point, root 2 and 0. This is x and y. So now to find the equation, we have to do y minus 0. X minus root 2 will be minus 9 minus 4 root 2 over 24 plus 6 root 2. So now we have to cross multiply. You will have y here, that will be 24 plus 6 root 2 is minus 9 minus 4 root 2 times x minus root 2. Now you can leave your answer just like that, or you can just rewrite this like this as well. Y equal to minus 9 minus 4 root 2 x minus root 2 divided by 24 plus 6 root 2. So this will be your equation of your normal. You can write this just like that if you want to. But yes, I would always recommend to simplify, because that's what you're looking for in I would say, exam questions. So if you want to be a top candidate for laureates, definitely simplify. But usually that will be enough for your full answer. It's just that if you want to keep going, you can always simplify. It is up to you. Now for part B, find the approximate change in y as x increases from this to this. So pretty easy. So the approximate change in y will be dy by dx, and the value of x equal to root 2 multiplied by h. So that will be, we know this value already, it is the value right here, 24 plus 6 root 2 divided by 9 plus 4 root 2, that will be 2.22, so that will be 2.22h as my answer. That will be question number 7. Okay, so let's move on to question number 8. So find the number of ways in which 12 people can be put into 3 groups containing 3, 4, and 5 people respectively. So pretty easy. So for the first group, I will choose 3 people. So from the 12, I can choose 3. Now from the remaining people, so 12 minus 3 will be 9. So from the 9 people, I can choose the 4. And then from the remaining people, I will just choose 5. 12 choose 3 times 9 choose 4 times 5 choose 5. That should be 27, 7, 2, 0. Okay, so basically one by one, right? So to form the first group, I will have 12 people at first, if that makes sense. 12 choose 3. Now, to form the second group, I will have a remaining of 9 people because I've chosen 3 already. That's what it means. So from 9 people, I will choose 4. Now to choose the last group, I will have only 5 people left. So from the 5, I need 5 people, so 5 choose 5. That will be for the last group, and this will be the number of ways we can do that. Now for part B, a 4-digit numbers are to be formed using 4 of the digits. So we have 5 numbers available, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. Each numbers may be used only once in any 4-digit number. Okay, so find how many 4-digit numbers if there is no restrictions. So pretty easy. From the 5, I can choose 4, 5, permutate 4, that will be 120. Now of course this is the formula way, but if you want to, you can always use the other way, which is I will have to use 4 spots. I have numbers 2, 3, 7, 8, and 9. Now for the first spot, I can choose any of those numbers, so I will have 5 choice. Let's say I choose 2. Now I will have, for this spot, I will have 4 choice. Let's say I choose 3. For this spot, I will have 3 choice. Let's say I choose 7. And finally, I will have 2 choice left for this last spot. So multiply 5 times 4 times 3 times 2, that should be 120 as my answer. Now, the only difference between combinations and permutation is that order. In permutation, the order matters, but in combination, we don't really care about the order of the numbers. For example, here, if I write 5, 4, 3, 2, it is one number, but what if I write 5, 3, 2, 4? You will say, hey, this is a different number, so it does matter. For example, here, right, let's say I have John, Bob, Mary in the group of 3 people. Now, what if I say, okay, let me put Mary first, John, and Bob? You will say, hey, you know what? It is still the same group of people, so it doesn't really matter in terms of combinations. That's what we know the difference between the two. Now, for part 2, we have to find the number of numbers given that the number has to be even. Now we have 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. So we have done this question many times. I hope you guys know how to do this by now, but let's go through this one by one. So how do you know a number is even? So you have to know that it has to end with an even number. Does that make sense? For example, if I write 253, you would say, okay, this one is not even, right? Because it ends with an odd number. Now if I write 254, you would say, okay, this one is even because it ends with 4. So that's what I mean. The number has to end with an even number for it to be even. So here I have 2 and 8 as an even number. And again, I still need to choose 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers, right? not choose, but form a 4-digit number. Now, how many ways I have of ending my number? From what I can see, I have only 2 options. We have 2 and 8 to choose from, so that will be 2 options. Let's say I choose 2. Now for the rest, we don't really care, because as you can see here, the rest doesn't really matter in determining if the number is odd or even. We only care about the last number that helps us to know if it is even or odd. Now this condition is met already. Now for the next 3, we don't really care. So for example here, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4 options. So 4 options. Let's say I choose 3. I will have 3 options for this one, and then we have 2 options for this one. So 4 times 3 times 2 times 2, that will be 48. So 48 will be your answer for part 2. Okay. Now for part 3, the number is more than 7,000 and odd. As you can see here, we have to satisfy 2 conditions. It has to be more than 7,000 and it has to be odd. So in those cases, when we have 2 conditions, we have to look at them case by case. So let's write down the numbers. We have 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. So how many odd numbers we have here? Let's check. We have 3, 7, and 9. These are the odd numbers. Now, question for you again. How do we know a number is more than 7,000? So question. So let's say I write 6, 9, 7, 9. We will say that this one is not more than 7,000. What if I write 7, 0, 0, 1? It is more than 7,000. So basically, I can see that I can begin my number with anything which is 7 or more than 7, if that makes sense. So the first number I can put here, it can be a 7, or it should be at least more than 7 or 7. Okay, so basically, to begin my number, I can begin with this one, I can begin with this one, or I can begin with this one. I hope that makes sense. For it to be more than 7,000, I can begin with 7, 8, or 9. Anything else will be below 7,000. Now let's look at case by case. For example, my first case, we are beginning with a 7. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 places to choose. So begin with 7, so we have only 1 7, so we have only one way to begin. Now for the number to be odd, it has to end with 3, 7, or 9. Because we have already chose 7, so that will go away, we'll have only 2 options to end our numbers. It can be 3 or 9. So now we have used 2 numbers, so 3 and 7. We have remaining 2, 8, 9. So we have 3 options and 2 options, right? So 1 times 3 times 2 times 2, that should be 12. That is my first case. Now, my second case, I can begin with 8, because we can see 8, clearly it will be more than 7,000. That is one of the options. 8, so we can, so let me not write this here. So begin with 8, we have only one 8, so I have only one option. Okay, now for it to be odd, I have to end with an odd number, so I have 3, 7, and 9, so I have 3 options to end. So I have used 2 numbers from the 5. Now I can choose anything for those 2. That will be 3 options and 2 options. That will be 18. And finally, I have another case where I can begin with 9. Now, so this one here should be pretty easy for you now to understand. So let's try this together one more time. Now, if you want to begin, assuming that we begin with 9, so we have to put 9 here. So how many 9 we have? We have only one 9, so I have only one option to put 1 9 there, right? That is my first number. Now, for it to end with, for it to be odd, it has to end with an odd number. Since I have chosen 9 already, 9 is gone, I will have only these 2 odd numbers remaining. So I have only two options to choose from. Let's say I choose 3. Now, for those two, I can put any numbers. There's no condition. I can choose from the remaining 3 numbers. So I can choose 3 here. Let's say I choose 2. And then we have 2 options. We have 2 options. That will be 12. So the number of numbers, we have to add each option to see how much we have. 12 plus 18 plus 12. That will be 42 as my answer. That will be question number 8. Let's move on to question number 9. So here we have the curve have equation y, okay. We have to show dy by dx equal to this where a and b are constant. So as you can see, y is a product. So we have the first one here and then the other one here. So we have to basically use the product rule. So dy by dx will be what? That will be, we write the first one as it is, 2x minus 1 times d by dx of this one. So what is this? We know that 4x plus 3 square root is actually power of half. So d by dx of this one will give you half 4x plus 3 power minus half times 4. And then plus, we write this one as it is, so square root 4x plus 3 multiplied by d by dx of this one, that will give you 2. So simplify, here you will have what? Cancel, cancel, that will be 2. We have 2x minus 1. This will become, so because of the power is negative, it will go down. Become something like this. And plus, now become 4x plus 3. Okay, so now as you can see, we have 2 fractions. We have this is basically over 1. So we have to add them together. Now the idea here is that we have to, because here we have the same thing, right? So let's say you had 2 over a power half plus 2 a power half. How would you add those? We can first make those become the same denominator. So we have to multiply them by each other. So this time this will be a power half. And we have to cross multiply, so that will become 2. And that will become 2a. So a power half times a power half will be 1. So that's the main idea. So same thing here. First, we have to make the base become the same. So multiply them by each other. We will have this. Then we have to cross multiply. So this times 1 will be the same thing. And this times this will give you 2. And then this will become this value. Okay. Now we have to simplify. So let's see what do we have. So on top, we have 4x minus 2 plus 8x plus 6. So 4 plus 8, that should be 12x. And minus 2 plus, that will be plus 4. Now we factorize the 4 outside, you will have 3x plus 1. As you can see, this will become 4 outside, 3x plus 1 over root of 4x plus 3. Okay, so that will be in this form as required where a and b are constants. That will be part A of the question. Now part B, we have to hence write down the x value of the stationary point of the curve. So pretty easy. So when does the curve have a stationary point? We have to know that it is when dy by dx have to be 0. So let's equate that to 0. So that will be 3x plus 1 over this equal to 0. Now what is 0? 0 is 0 over 1. So we cross multiply, you will have 3x plus 1, 0. Solving for x will be minus 1 over 3. X will be minus 1 over 3. Now for part C, determine the nature of this point. So to find the nature, we have to find d2y by dx2. So let's see how can we find that. So d2y by dx2. So we have to use differentiation again. So there's many ways of actually doing this question. Is we can just replace the values and see what happens. So let me teach you guys another way. It could be easier in the future. Because here we don't have much space either, we can just do this easier way. So we know dy by dx is equal to 4 3x plus 1 over root of 4x this. We know that when x equal to minus 1 over 3, this will be the value of 0, because as you have seen, this is what we did here to find the value, so we know this. Now, if you look at our number line, let's say this is minus 1 over 3. Let's choose a number which is over here and choose something which is over here. So here we can choose the number, let's say we choose 1, or we can choose 0. Here we can choose minus 1. So let's see what happens to dy by dx for those two values. So first, let's see, what is the value of dy by dx at the value of x equal to 0 on the right side of that point? That will become 4 times 1 over root of 3. So it will be a positive value. So 4 divided by root 3 will be 2.309. So we have to know it is a positive value. That's what I want to know. Okay. Now, for this one, dy by dx at x equal to minus 1. Let's see what we have. So we have 4 times 3 times minus 1 plus 1, that will be minus 8, divided by, so as you can see, it will not be possible here. So minus 1, it is not a valid value. Let me choose something else. Let me choose the value of, in between, what do we have? We have minus 2 over 3. Let me choose this value. So you have 4 times minus 2 over 3 plus 3. Root of that will be something positive. On top we have minus 8 divided by that value. That will be minus 13.8. So here I've chosen the value of minus 2 over 3. Because minus 1, it will not be possible for this value. So the idea here is that the value is not important. It just we have to know if it is going to be positive or negative. Okay? So as you can see here, the value from going from the left going to right, what happens? So when it was left, the value was going. So you have to know what does it measure. So basically, if the value was negative on the left hand side, it means that it was going down. Right? You have to understand. The graph will be looking something like this, because it was going down. Now when it reached this point, it was 0, and when it going to pass this point, it will be this way. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Judging from those values from the left hand side going to the right hand side, when the value was on the left, the gradient, as you can see, was negative. It means that it was going down, right? And now when it reached the value of x equal to minus 1 over 3, it was at 0, okay? Now when it is going past this point, it is gradient is positive. It means it is going up. As you can see, we can see that this point here is a minimum point. So it will be a minimum point according to this method. Okay, so let me re-explain the idea again, because we didn't have much space. I didn't want to find d2y by dx2, but that is always the way I would recommend going to, because that's the easiest way, I would say. But sometimes this may be easy as well. If you look at this, we know that the minimum point is at minus 1 over 3. So we write down minus 1 over 3. Now let's find a point which is right after and right before that point. So right after will be 0, and right before will be minus 2 over 3. Now we have to replace the values in dy by dx. Okay? So dy by dx at x equal to 0 will give me this value. So the value is not important. We have to know that the sign, it is a positive value. So I know that past this point, it will be a positive value. Okay. Now before this point, it will give me a negative value. So dy by dx is a gradient, right? So I know that at this point, the gradient is 0. So 0 will be a flat line. But before that, as you can see, it was negative. It means that the curve was coming down. And past that, the curve will be going up. So it gives you a minimum shape. That's why I say it will be a minimum point. So that is the other way of finding the nature, by observing the gradient of the graph before and after the minimum point. That is one way of doing that. It is up to you to choose which way you like to do. Now let's move on to question number 10. So the polynomial, we have p of x, where a and b are integers, has factor of x minus 2. Okay, so that's good to know. Given that p1 equal to minus p of o, find the values of a and b. So one by one, let's first use this one. So if an equation or a polynomial has a factor of x minus 2, so it means that it has no remainder. According to the remainder theorem, if I were to put the value of 2 here, it should give me a remainder of 0. How do I find 2? I take the factor, I equate that to 0, x will be 2. So this is where I have 2. So according to the remainder theorem, if I put the value of 2 inside of my equation, the remainder will be 0. So we have to use that information to derive this equation. So let's do that. 6 times 2 power 3 will be 8, plus a, that will be 4 plus b times 2 plus 2 has to be 0. Simplify. 4 times 80 will be 48, plus 4a plus 2b plus 2 has to be 0. So 4a plus 2b plus 50 have to be 0. This is my first equation. Let's move on to the next one. So here we have this one. P of 1 is 1. 6 times 1 is 1, plus a plus b plus 2. That is minus 2. P of 0 will be just 2. So replace those values in your equation. Now I have a plus b plus 8 will be minus 4. A plus b, that will be minus 4 minus 8, that will be minus 12. So a plus b will be minus 12. That is my equation number 2. So now we have to use those two equations to actually find the values of a and b. So let me just make this become my subject. B will be minus 12 minus 8. Replace this in my equation here. You'll have 4a plus 2b, b is minus 12, minus a, plus 50 has to be 0. So 4a minus 24 minus 2a plus 50, 0. 4a minus 2a, that should be 2a. And we have minus this plus this, that should be plus 26. So 2a has to be minus 26, a has to be minus 13. That is my first value that we have found. Now part B, that will be minus 12 minus a is this, that will be minus 12 plus 13 has to be 1. So we have found that the value of a is minus 13 and the value of b will be 1. Now part B, using your values of a and b, find the remainder of p of x when we divide by 2x minus 1. So pretty easy. Now we have p of x equal to 6x cubed. A is minus 13 x squared plus x plus 2. So basically we have to find the value of x to put here. So we take the factor given to us, equate that to 0, solve for x, you will have x will be half. Now take this value of x, replace it here, you will have your remainder. That will be 6 times, that will be 1 over 8, minus 13, that will be 1 over 4, plus 1 over 2, plus 2. 6 times 1 over 8, minus 13, times 1 over 4, plus half, plus 2. That will be 0. Okay, so as you can see, the remainder here is 0. That's my answer, by the way, for part 1. The remainder will be 0. Now, part 3 is we have to factorize this equation. Okay, so let's do that. So, I know that p of x can now be written as, the first factor was given to us by x minus 2 by the equation. And then we realize that this one is another factor, which is 2x minus 1. And then we have to find the other one to factorize it. So to find the other one, we have to do long division. Let's first expand those two. X times this will become 2x squared minus x. This will be minus 4x plus 2. That will be 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. Okay, so now we have to divide by this to find the other factor. So let me find some space. So let me do this here. So my p of x is given by 6x cubed minus 13x squared plus x plus 2. Long division by this one, right? That will be 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. So now the first thing is, how can we make 2x squared become 6x cubed? So multiply by 3x, right? You will have 6x cubed. And then you will have minus 15x squared plus 6. So simplify, this will go away. And this will be minus 13 minus 13 plus 15, that should be 2x squared. That will be minus 5x and plus 2. As you can see, this and this are the same, so multiply by plus 1, it will be the same thing. Okay, so this will be cancelled out. So now based on that, we know that p of x is actually 2x squared, this one plus 2 times 3x plus 1. Now factorize completely, as you have seen here, it will be this. So it will be p of x is equal to x minus 2 times 2x minus 1 times 3x plus 1. That will be the complete factorization of p of x. Again, so whenever you have to work with cubic curves, you have to kind of expect to do long division. It is a hint, doing long division for cubic curve should be coming to your mind when doing those questions. Now for question number 11. In these questions, all the length are in centimeters and the angle are in radians. Okay. Now question, the diagram shows the rectangle ADEF, where AF and DE are R. Okay, good to know. The points B and C lie on AD. Okay, and such that AB and CD are the radius as well. Good. The curve BC is an arc of a circle center O. Good to know. And the length of the arc is 1.5 R. So which means this angle here will be what? So we have to know the formula for arc length is R theta. Arc length was given by 1.5 times R theta. This is R, right? So it means theta has to be 1.5 radians. So the angle here will be 1.5 radians. Now part 1, we have to show that the perimeter of the region is given by this. So we have to find that one by one. Again, what is perimeter? It is the distance around that region. It is this plus this plus this plus this. Okay, so let's find out. So here we have R, this will be R as well. So we know this is 1.5 r, so we have to find this length. To find this length, we have to have BC, so we have to find the length of BC. So my goal here is to find the length of BC. So how can you find BC? So there's many ways to actually do this question. So let's find a way that we find convenient for us. For example, we can just break this down into half. Right? And then here I can see that this is 90. I can form a triangle. So this is what? This is 1.5. Half will be 0.75. Right? Now you can see we clearly have a right angle triangle. So let's draw this down. I have something like this. Okay, this will be 90. This will be, we don't know this, we know this one. This one is 0.75. Now we know this length is r. We are trying to find this one. So we can find this by using SOHCAHTOA. Now which one we will use? Let's see. SOHCAHTOA. Cool. This is my hypotenuse, so h and h. I want to find this side. This will be my opposite side. Will be this one. So I have to use sine. So sine of the angle 0.75 is equal to this side, which is let's call this x, over my radius. X will be r sine 0.75. Now based on that, I need to find BC. BC is 2 times x. If you observe here, x is only the half of what we need. So we have to find BC. BC is 2 times x. So that will be 2r sine of 0.75. Okay, so now let's write down the perimeter. So if you observe, the perimeter will be what? If you observe, it will be r plus 1.5 r plus r plus r again. So r plus r one more time. And then plus this length will be what? R, and BC. That will be 2r plus BC will be 2r sine of 0.75. So let's add them together. So here we have 1.5 is 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 7.5. We will have 7.5 plus 2r sine of 0.75. That will be the perimeter for now. Now we can factorize r outside. You will have r will be outside 7.5 plus 2 sine of 0.75. So we can write this down in the way that we need to show. So let's write the r at the end. You will have this as your answer for your perimeter. That is shown as required for part A. Now let's move on to part B. So here we have to find the area of the region, giving my answer in terms of k r squared, where k is a constant, correct to 2 decimal places. So first is, how do you think you're going to find the area? So we have to observe. We can first find the area of the rectangle. Let's call this number 1. It is the whole area. And then we can minus the area of the sector, number 2. Okay, so let's do one by one. Number 1, actually it's area of segment, not sector. So area 1 is area of that rectangle. Area of rectangle. So how do you find that? It is length times width, right? So let's do that. Length is r, and times width. Width will be this, BC and r. Okay, so let's do this. So what else do we know? We don't know this. Okay, there's no value for r right now. So let's see, the length will be 2r plus 2r sine of 0.75 multiplied by the value of width. Width is given by r. That is my width. So if you write this down, you will have 2 plus 2 sine 0.75 all square. So simplify, 2 plus 2 sine of 0.75, that will be 3.36 all square. Let's write 3 here for now. That will be part A. Now, this is the whole area. We need to minus the area of the segment. So let's find that area. So how do you find area of segment? You can first find the area of the sector minus the area of the triangle. Okay? Area of segment will be area of segment is area of sector minus area of triangle. Right? If you observe, we want to find the whole area here first minus the area of the triangle to get the area of segment. So area of sector, if we use our formula, we just have r squared theta. Theta is 1.5 as we have seen. Area of triangle will be half times the two sides, which is r times r, and times the angle in between will be sine of 1.5. So now we can simplify. So take out r square, you will have 0.75 minus sine 1.5 over 2. So let's do that. Minus sine of 1.5 over 2. Let's do that. So sine of 1.5 divided by 2 will be this. 0.75 minus this will be this. So the answer will be something. R square will be 0.251 for my value. Now that will be 0.251 R square. Now to find the required value, which is I need to find that region. So shaded region area, that will be number 1, which is this, minus number 2. Of course, all will be factorized outside. 3.363 minus 0.251, that should be 3.11 R for my value, and this is K, the constant K, as you have seen here, corrected 2 decimal place, and that will be the area that we need to find for that question. As you can see, it's always one by one, step by step, that we have to proceed in those kind of questions to find the value. Let's move on to question number 12. So the diagram shows the velocity time graph of a particle P that travels 2775 in 90 seconds. So we know that this is a velocity time graph. Here we have velocity, here we have time. Okay? And we know that the particles travel this much in that time. So this is the distance traveled in 90 seconds, reaching V. So part 1, find the value of V. Now how can you find the value of V? So we have to think. Okay, so we have to use the information given to us to find that value. So we know that the distance traveled is this. Now when you have a velocity time graph, the distance traveled is equal to what? You have to know by now. The distance traveled is equal to area under graph. So let's find the area under this graph. So the trick here is to break this down into 2 pieces where you can find one by one. For example, if I were to draw a straight line here, as you can see, we will have 2 pieces. So one is a big, let's call this number 1, which is the trapezium, and this is the triangle. So number 1, pretty easy, let's find that. Number 1 is area of a trapezium, that will be half times sum of the parallel sides, this will be 90, plus this will be what? 90 minus 20, and times the height in between, that will be 30. That's number 1. So half times 90 plus 70 times 30. That will be 2,400. Now number 2, we have to find the area of this triangle. So how do you find area of a triangle? Half times base times the perpendicular height. So half times base. Base will be this one, which is 90 minus 60. That will be 30. and times the height. The height we don't know, I think. The height is this one, which is v minus 30. Right? This is v 30. The height will be v minus 30. So v minus 30. So if you simplify, you will have 15 v minus 30. Now let's see. So we know that the area or the distance traveled is given by 2775. So we know if you take number 1 plus number 2, that should give you 2775. Now we have an equation. Now we can solve for the value of v. So you have 15 here, leave this alone by itself for now. We can first send this one over here, so you will have 2775 minus 24. That will be 375. Then we can divide by 15. You will have 25. And finally, to find the value of v, we can just send 30 to the other side. That will be 55. So v is 55. Okay, that will be part 1 of the question. Now part 2, here we have to write down the acceleration of p when t equal to 40. Now whenever you see write down, it means it should be pretty easy. Now where is t equal to 40? Let's go and see. So t40 should be here. Now you have to know something. I think you guys must know this by now, obviously. We have done this many times. Whenever you have a velocity time graph, how do you find the acceleration? So the point is that when you have a velocity time graph, the acceleration is the gradient of the graph. So keep this in mind, okay? So at time 40, the car or the p is here. So as you can see, this one is a straight flat line. So what is the gradient of a horizontal line? So we have to know on a horizontal line, the gradient is 0. And because of that, the acceleration would also be 0 meters per second square. So write down, that will be 0 for the acceleration. Now let's move on to part B of the question. Now the acceleration A of a particle Q in a straight line is given by this equation. Okay, that's something good to know. Then when t equals, so I think this is the main part of the information. When t equal to 0, the particle is at point O. So E is at point O. Good to know. And is traveling with v equal to 10. So basically, we know when t is 0, v is 10, and when t is 0, the displacement from point O is also 0. So this is something we have derived from that line of information. Now, let's move on to the question. So here we have to find v of q at time t. Now, we have to know v is equal to integration of a with respect to dt. A is given to you by 6 cos 2t by dt. That will be 6 is only a multiple, remain the same. Cos will become sine, and 2t is 2t, but we have to divide by 2 and plus c. That will be v. Simplify, you have v is 3 sine of 2t plus c. Now we have to find this value of c. So as you can see, we have to use the given information, so which is v is 10 when t is 0. So replace in the main equation. Here we have 10, and that will be 3 sine of 0 plus c. So that will be 10 and equal to, this will be 0 plus c. c is 10. So finally, v will be 3 sine of 2t plus 10. That is the velocity of q at time t. That is part 1. Now for part 2, we have to find the displacement, which is x, according to our definition. This is what we choose x to be displacement, but usually we choose x, or we can use s as displacement. It is up to you. You can choose either letters to represent displacement. So we have to find that of q at time t. So we have to know x is given by dv, sorry, not dv, but integration of v by dt. That will be 3 sine of 2t plus 10 by dt. That will be 3 is only a multiple, and here you will have minus cos 2t over 2, right? And then plus 10t plus d. Now, because we have used c already, let's change the constant to d, and that will be x. Now we have to simplify. Now the x is minus 3 over 2 cos 2t plus 10t plus d. So we have to find the value of this one. So again, we have to use the information given to us. So when t equal to 0, we know x was 0. X's displacement from the point O was 0. That will be 0 minus 3 over 2 cos of 0 plus 0 plus c. Now what is cos of 0? Cos of 0 should be 1. So basically 0 is minus 3 over 2 times 1 will be the same value, and that will be c. So c will be 3 over 2. So in the end, we conclude that displacement x will be given by minus 3 over 2 cos 2t plus 10t and plus 3 over 2. And that will be your answer for question number 12. And this is the last question of this paper, so I hope that was somewhat helpful. As always, thank you for watching. I will see you soon.